I want to talk about God, spirit, and synchronicity. René Descartes wrote a piece called Meditations, and in which he thought that he could demonstrate a priori from fundamental reasoning, from logic, the existence of God. But you know you can't. You can't work out whether or not there's a God just from first principles, just from logic. One of the reasons that's so is because we've learnt so much scientifically about this world in the last 100 years, and the 100 years before that, since the Renaissance, in an accelerating fashion. And there are these unanswered questions. And for me, there are two unanswered questions. I can't understand the generation of the first cell without intelligent design. And I know, and I believe we know, nothing about consciousness. What it is, where it is, how it is. But we're a young species, and science is young, and science is primitive and just beginning. And in 50 years, in 100 years, what will we know? We may find answers. We may find these answers. So, it's because the answers aren't apparent, it doesn't mean that therefore we must invoke a God. So, I believe that the existence of spirit is a empirical question. Is there evidence? Is there evidence of spirit? Is there evidence of God? And the complexity of the universe isn't in itself evidence of the divine. We know from the study of chaos and complexity how complex the world is, and how prone to pattern the world is. So, a priori, I believe I've seen the finger of God in the mix, and I've seen it through synchronicity. And synchronicity is Carl Jung's term for those coincidences that one doesn't feel are coincidences, but rather the universe patterning things, overlaying things, creating significances. In my first experience, let's talk, I want a tangent. I was brought up, my parents were communists and atheists, and science was going to find the answer to all things. And I was raised to believe this, and I was raised a materialist. The world is made of matter and energy, and the patterning of matter and energy, as we understand that, we'll be able to explain all things. When I was in my mid-20s doing my PhD, my colleague, Paul Horridge, one day made this very simple statement that changed my world. He said that, or pointed out, that all data is experiential. It's intrinsic to the nature data that it's experiential. All primary data is experiential. I believe what he said. And that just shook my world and changed my world. Because if experience is primary, and if you give it any thought, it obviously is. Cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. I experience, therefore I experience. And lacking experience is what?